All right, guys, what's going on with you? It's your favorite traveler, Travels in My Lifetime, aka Travels of Preston. All right. So today, we're in Maryland today, right? So we're exploring the Battle of Antietam, which is the Antietam National Battlefield. All right. So the hours are about roughly 9 to, I think, 5 o'clock in the evening. So when you come here, they're actually building on the visitor center. So they have a partial visitor center off to my right. So I'll show you that in a minute. So it's about $20 for the vehicle. So which entails that anybody that's in that vehicle is covered under that $20 blanket, which is about, I think it's a 3-day pass or a 3-day permit, as say on the sign. So once you go to the visitor center, you can actually buy everything online. That's what we did. That's what we recommend. Now they do also, one of the tips is that the signal is horrible out here, right? So I'm not sure, if you got Verizon, whoever you got, Singular, if you old school with it, I have no idea. But yeah, so they said the signal's pretty bad. So you definitely want to download your ticket prior to coming here or taking a screenshot of that particular ticket, right? So then once you get here, like I said, you're gonna find parking and you're gonna go to the visitor center. Once you go in the visitor center, you just show them your pass, or you purchase your stuff right as soon as you get in there, right? So they got like a brief video, maybe I think it starts every 30 minutes to an hour, and it's roughly, I think, about a 35-minute overview of the battlefield, right? So there's 2 different ways to go about doing this. So they actually have a driving tour, which takes about an hour and a half, and it's like 11 points. So at each 11 point, they have a way sign where it describes that scene, right? So it goes in chronological order, okay, from where Lee and the Confederate troops attacked all the way to Mckellen coming in to stop them and things of that nature. So you go to each point, it has its own little way sign. You can read it, get out, take pictures, videos, and things of that nature. Also, another way of doing the whole tour is just you actually hike it, and that is going to take several hours. I think like 4 to 6 hours or something like that if you're going to hike it, because it's about roughly, I think it's like 8 miles or something like that all the way around. So we're actually going to do the driving tour thing, because I'm not about to hike 8 miles today, especially with my wife and this camera. It gets a little heavy, all right? So stay tuned and let's get it going, all right? All right, guys, so we just got to the first stop, okay, of this whole entire tour. And the first stop is ironically just a church, right? You would think it'd be something crazy spectacular, but it's not. This is one of the most noted churches of this whole entire battlefield, of this national park, okay? And so the church was actually built in 1852 by a local German brethren, okay? And it was this plot of land was actually donated by a local farmer of the community, all right? So it actually withstood the test of time up until 1921, when it was blown down by like a windstorm, okay? And then they rebuilt it for the centennial. So let's keep going. Let's see what we can see inside. All right, guys, so we're still at Site 1. We just looked at Dunker Church, which is directly behind the camera. But I also wanted to point out this way sign that we also was trying to read and get a better understanding of what's going on, right? So essentially, Abraham Lincoln, who was the president of the North at the time, sent a telegram to General Mckellen, who was leading the North in this area of the battlefield, right? So 2 days before the actual war started, he said, hey, pretty much go and fight the rebels, or the Confederate in a sense, right? So leading the charge from the Confederate side was General Lee. And General Lee had some of his under generals, which was General Stonewall Jackson. I'm sure everybody heard of that name, right? So the Confederate actually had about 40,000 troops actually concentrate exactly essentially where I'm standing, right? So in that perspective, he had the 40,000 spread in a long line. So actually it was kind of spread thin. It wasn't like actually concentrated like in one little area. So there was like 40,000 men spread about 3 miles long, okay? So General Mckellen, he sent in about 15,000 troops the day prior to attack, right before dawn. As soon as dawn hit, they attacked, okay, for about 4 hours in this one little location, right? So keep in mind throughout this journey, these next 11 stops, that this whole battle took place in one day. And it's literally the bloodiest American war, right? Because we lost essentially about roughly 23,000 men that day, men and women. So just think about that. That's pretty astronomical numbers for one day of battle. Because when you look at other wars, you might lose that over a stretch of years and years and years of fighting. So we lost that in one day. All right, guys, so we're still at point one. We're doing a little walking around. And as you can see to my right of me, we have a series of cannons, various different cannons, whatever. So both cannons all the cannons were used on both sides, the gray and the blue, obviously gray being Confederate, blue being Union. So the over 500 shells were literally shot at each other through a 12-hour period. That is insane, right? So if you're not familiar with different terms or military terms like artillery, so artillery is actually a separate branch from infantry, because most people think everybody's in the infantry if you're in the army or things of that nature. So artillery actually supplements the infantry, right? So this is how they actually shot long distance. Obviously, these shoot further than, let's say, a bullet would. So they will use this and supplement with the infantry as they advance. This will actually pave the way for them at a further distance, so the infantry can actually advance closer to the men. All right, guys, so we just got to point two. Point two is instrumental because this is where the Union General Hooker sent his men the night before the actual war started, and they spent the night at this farm. This farm is actually called Joseph Puffenberg's farm. All right, it's right at the edge of the North Woods, which is directly behind the camera. But so this is where they moved in towards the Confederate army. And one of the most notable things is it was a woman by the name of Claire Barton that she actually volunteered, and she brought in supplies to the Union troops because she heard that they had inadequate supplies and bandages and just people that knew how to actually do field dressings. All right, guys, so we just got to stop three. All right, stop three is actually the East Woods now. So on September 16th, General Hooker from the Union, he actually brought his troops from First Corps right in this area, and this is where Stonewall Jackson had his troops. So they had a huge clash in between each other where they was giving and taking ground. So at the end of the day, the Union actually won this part of the battle by the morning of September 17th, okay? So they had more artillery and fierce fighting at this location as well. This is actually Mumba, I think it's called, Mumba Farm Lane. So this is Mumba Farm Lane, and this is where they drove them back from the East Woods across to Mumba Farm Lane, and they kept going back that way. All right, guys, so we just got to stop 4. All right, so we really didn't travel too far from stop 3, where we was at the eastern edge of the forest or the woods. So right here is known as the Bloody Cornfield. All right, so this is literally one of the bloodiest parts of the day. All right, so General Hooker and General Mayfield from the Union side was clashing with Stonewall Jackson from the Confederate side right here in this cornfield. It's roughly a little over 20 acres of cornfield, but literally some very intense fighting was happening here, where Hayes, he literally lost 60% of his troops in 30 minutes. That is insane. So yeah, it's just hard to believe people was fighting that ferociously, like in this little cornfield. You know, how many people lost their lives and just never got to see another day, you know? But obviously the fight was a fight that needed to be fought. And I'm for one that's happy that the Union won, you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, especially me being a veteran, that I really understand the, the pride a person has in their country, even though, like I said, the South seceded from the Union, creating that division. I mean, obviously, the North needed to do what they needed to do to make sure that we all came back together as brothers and sisters in arms. So, yeah, obviously, go Union. All right, guys, so we just got to point 5. So here at point 5, we're in the West Woods, okay? So in the West Woods, General Sumner from the Union forces had his troops actually stationed behind me. And so he took heavy artillery from the Confederate side, right? And they took, I mean, so many casualties. It can't even like put into words how many bodies they lost in like short amount of time, okay? And as you can see kind of behind me, there's some artillery cannons behind me. This is, like I said, this is just blowing me away because I never really looked at Antietam like this in this depth. And like I said, this is my first time at this battlefield, and I'm just learning so much that I'm definitely going to go back and do a little bit more in-depth research, as I hope this video inspires you to do the same. Okay. And also I want to take time out in the middle of the video to make sure that I let you know to make sure you like this video, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment at the very end to let me know what you think, and if there's any other places that you would recommend that I should vlog, and so I can inspire others to either learn about history or do some other cultural things, okay? All right, guys, so we just got to point 6, okay? 6 out of 11, we're almost there. So this is Mama's Cemetery. This is what it's labeled because this is the Mama's land. So their farm was like right there. So this is interesting because they got wind that, that the battle between the South and the North was going to take place around this region or right here. So they actually up and left because they thought, hey, this is a good location for the North Army to, you know, hold up like a little fort or like a stronghold. So that's why they left their property and they took their 10 kids with them to their neighbors. Well, the Confederates understood that this could probably be used for the North. So what they did was, before the battle actually started, they actually set fire to this property and burned it to the ground. So after the war, the Mamas, they was actually able to relocate back to their property and rebuild. So they were supposed to get compensation from the government after the war. But what happened was, because the Confederates burned it down, unfortunately, they were not compensated for their the loss of property. So back then, the government will only issue if it was done by the Union Army, then they would have compensated them. But they say, hey, that's just what it is with war, I guess. All right, guys, so we just got to point 7, okay? So we actually moved from the Mama's farmland to this open farm area right here before we get to Sunken Road. So essentially, General Richardson from the Union Army he had orders to advance and just keep advancing towards the Confederate side. So he advanced as far as he could until he ran into that roadblock of the Confederate Army that was literally fortified right on that side of the Sunken Road. So backup forces from General French actually came about an hour later into the fight, and he was able to assist them and to keep advancing towards the Confederate side. But here, the initial general that led the forces, General Richardson, he actually was mortally wounded here right in these fields, and he was actually taken to General Mckellen's tent, where he actually ended up dying there. And General French, he actually kept going, and he didn't actually die until after he retired in 1880. So he lived, I guess, a longer life, as you can say. All right, point 8, guys, point 8. And point 8 is the legendary Sunken Road. This old little piece of road in between like the farms and stuff like that, the different farmhouses, was so important, so crucial, right, for the Union side, right? So Colonel Brown promised General Lee from the Confederate side, hey, we're gonna pretty much die on our shields right here. Either we're gonna have victory here or we all gonna die here. And he had about 2,200 men laid on this battlefield fighting for the Confederate side. So as the Union pushed in, literally, he did exactly what he said. We're not retreating. There's no such thing as retreating. So by the end of, I think that morning or by midday, literally 5,500 well, roughly about 5,500 people died on this between the Union and the South. Literally died right here. So when you Google these images, you will see a lot of dead bodies in this little sunken road right here, in this little part right here. So it's very, very, sad and depressing. So like that, losing your life, it's never, fun or like that. So it's definitely a very humble experience to come here and actually know that, 5,500 men were casualties here. All right, guys, so we just got to stop 9. Okay, so right behind me is the lower bridge. It connects 2 different towns, Sharpsburg and another town that starts with an R. I'll make sure I put that below. But this was very important because the Confederate General Toombs, he actually was in command of 500 troops right here on this little ridge. He was supposed to hold this bridge, but the Union forces by now, during the day, has really taken a lot of ground from the Confederate soldiers. So literally, it was only a matter of time before he had to give it up anyway. But it took 3 hours. He stood fast for 3 hours on this particular Antietam Creek. And he lost the bridge to the Union, so they actually took it. And the general that was in charge of taking it was General Burnside. So that's why now it's known as the Burnside Bridge. And so yeah, this is what it is. It's the Burnside Bridge. Okay, guys, so we reached number 10, all right? 10 out of 11, all right? So this is actually right after General Burnside actually took the bridge. And once he took the bridge, the forces actually moved to this cornfield, or these fields behind me. And he was met with very little resistance. And it looked like the Union Army was literally going to decimate the Confederate Army. But I guess General Lee, he had some reserve forces that he could use, and he sent General A.P. Hill back in to fortify the Confederate armies right here with his light infantry division. And because he came in with those extra forces that the Union Army did not anticipate, that actually drove Burnside back to the creek, to Antietam Creek. All right, so it was like a little standstill, and this is literally like the final attack of that particular day. And that's how, but at the end of the day, the Union Army gained so much ground and was able to repel a lot of the Confederate forces. It was considered a victory for the Union. It was like turn the tide. And so this is like absolutely amazing information. I can't wait to do a deep dive into this, and I'm definitely going to be having pop-ups throughout the video to give you a little bit more detail that I'm not able to actually tell you guys. So the last stop is stop 11, and that's going to be the cemetery. So we're just going to pay our respects to at the cemetery. Real nice and easy, nothing too strenuous and like that. And like I said, this video has been really fun. But so let's see stop 11 and see what the cemetery looks like. Okay, guys, so this is the wrap up, all right? So this is stop 11, which is directly behind me over my right shoulder is actually the cemetery. And I really didn't feel too comfortable shooting all that. So I just kind of wanted to stay right here in the parking lot that they have reserved if you wanted to go over there and, check out some of the grave sites and stuff like that. But so from steps 1 to 11, that was the course of the day. Well, actually, course through 1 through 10 was the course of the day of the bloodiest American battle in American history, which is the Battle of Antietam, which you just watched. So literally, they have some stuff that, like the last way sign is the bloodiest one-day battle in American history. This actually ended Lee's first northern invasion. So what that means, that kind of tells you that there was more invasions planned or that actually came about. So, and this actually led to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, all right? So I'm sure you're well aware what that is. And then if you're not, I definitely have a little write-up on that, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of the National Park of Antietam. And I actually had a wonderful time with my wife, walking through some of the stuff, reading some of the placards and things of that nature. Like I said, I love history. And just like make sure that you leave a comment at the end so I can know whether or not you guys like this type of content, because I love this type of content. I love shooting museums or battlefields, any type of historical significance that I can find. I'm definitely going to shoot it. And like I said, I definitely want to get more Virginia, Maryland, and DC content. All right, so make sure that you stay tuned and make sure you hit that subscribe and that notification bell so you'll be able to see all the videos and watch some of my past videos as well. Okay. All right, this is Travels of Preston signing out.